Welcome to Idiosyncratic Fables. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, Happy New Year, and welcome to 2025, but also welcome to the new season of Idiosyncratic Fables. The podcast seasons always kind of make me scratch my head because I don't know if it needs to be a certain theme or structure or whatever. Because I'm a very, chronological and systematic type thinker anyway, so everything has to have its nice, neat, perfect little box. It's got to go in a certain little order. So I figure, you know what? It's going to make sense to me if each season was each year. So therefore, season 1 was 2024, season 2, 2025. It may change. I don't know, but that's what works for my head right now. Oh, golly. So starting off this year, I've already got audiobook work going into the month of April, which is fantastic, most of which coming from Tantor Audio, to which I am incredibly grateful for all of the opportunities they give me. And right now, currently working on a book called The One Who Changes the Future. It's part 1 of 3 in a trilogy. And it's a pretty fascinating genre, for books. It is a dystopian progression fantasy book. So it's got a little bit of, time travel. It's got a little bit of lit RPG in there as far as leveling up your stats, a little bit of a band of friends coming together to go conquer and fight enemies. But all the while in the real world, there are issues that need to be faced as far as military, government, family, etc. I won't go into too many details. I'll let you get the book when it comes out. Switching gears, though, for more podcast-focused related items, I am so thrilled to introduce to you my next guest and also first guest of the new season, first guest of the new year, my brother, Kevin Cheatham. Ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause. And Kevin, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Woo! Long-time lurker, first-time guest. What's up, fam? Happy to be here, bro.
Dude, I'm so glad you're here, man. How's your Monday treating you?
Oh, it's fantastic. We are living in history in the making. What a time to be alive. You're talking about I have a day off because it's MLK holiday. Shouts out to MLK Jr.
Whoop, whoop.
Holding down the ATL. What's up? And it also happens to be the 47th President's Inauguration Day. Wherever you stand on that side, it doesn't matter. It's happening. It's history at the same time. So, and it's really cold. So there's that too.
Yeah. Speaking of temperature, what's the temperature at where you're at in the ATL?
Well, in the ATL, it is cold enough to where I'm not going outside. But with that, the official temperature right now is 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
Good heavens.
Yeah, it's nothing like you Iowans, Iowans. People who live in Iowa.
Yeah, up here in Iowa, when I woke up this morning, the current temperature was -5.
What?
Yeah. Of course, I've been up here for a little over 8 years, so you would think that this type of weather is no longer a surprise to me.
Right.
Well, it doesn't surprise me anymore, but it doesn't remove the level of discomfort. I mean, I still remember back when I was first working for the company that brought me up here to Iowa. So this is back in 2016 and my first actual northern winter experience. The high temperature of that particular day was 1. Yeah, I was not a happy camper. Of course, now I'm sitting here looking at my weather guesser app on my phone, and current temperature is 1.
Wow.
The high temperature of the day is going to be 9 with a low of -15.
Wow, that's some coldness. Also another fun tidbit too. So what I was talking about, history in the making. So on top of all that funness I mentioned, Today is also for you, fellow sports junkies, the College Football National Championship, in which the game is being played right here in Atlanta.
Heyo.
So Ohio State and Notre Dame.
So there you go.
Yeah.
For all of you Ohio.
This is the episode where Jay dies.
No kidding. So there you go. For all of you Ohio State, what are they? The Buckeyes?
Yes.
Fans, which clearly I'm not. Sorry. I do know of a couple of people that are Notre Dame fans and the good old Fighting Irish. One in particular who goes to my church. He goes, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to make it tonight because there's a very important game on that I need to see. It's like, yeah, it's all right.
He's okay, man.
Yep, you'll be missed.
That's right.
All right, so moving away from weather because it's cold and I don't want to give it any more attention than necessary. We got football going on. Let's go to more focused questions about you, Kevin. So looking at the camera, which our audience doesn't see, I'm looking at a very nice whisper room and a even nicer microphone you got going on there. If I didn't know any better, of course I do, you are in the world of voiceover. Talk to me about that.
Tis I am, Saya. Yes, I am one of those passionate persons here on planet Earth where I love to exercise creativity through the realm of audio. I do indeed am sitting in my TARDIS, also known as the Whisper Room. It is the 4x4 model. Single wall or single panel wall, for those who are extra nerdy about it. And yes, I do have the illustrious Sennheiser 416 shotgun microphone, which many claim to be the mecca of microphones for voiceover work. So I definitely jumped in with both feet into the deep end into this. And fun story about these pieces of equipment I have, if you will, indulge me. So a lot of people these days are looking for ways to, I guess, bring more positivity into their life or bring more control over the direction of their life, if you will. You know, we came out of 2020 after that whole fiasco. And so a lot of people like myself started looking inwards into yourself and thus came about finding literature as well as other audio on manifestation. Now, if you have an opinion on that, that's great. Everyone's entitled to one. But this story is to let you know that I think it works. And here's how. So looking for my first setup was in a closet. You know, a lot of people do that. And that's great. That is a fantastic place to start out if you're starting on voiceover. Just put a lot of like mattress foam on the walls or thick fabrics, if you will, and just let it rip. But for me, I like to overachieve. So I wanted to go the distance. And I started looking online for materials to build my own booth. And lo and behold, through Facebook Marketplace, there was a gentleman who lived 15 minutes away from me who was selling this very whisper room. And he wasn't just selling it outright. He was selling it for half off than what it usually costs. And we're talking, you know, retail, it's a couple grand. So chop that in half. And it was in immaculate condition. His situation was he was a traveling musician, and this booth he used for recordings, and it was in his mom's basement in her house because he was kind of like a nomad, you know, typical musician on the road, a gypsy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So he didn't have any more use for it, decided to go ahead and sell it. So here I was, you know, a couple weeks into looking for different materials and trying to, you know, figure that out, all the while thinking and, you know, I guess in a way people say manifest a recording booth. So hit this gentleman up and come to find out it was the sweet deal. Went to go look at it. And I just like that meme from Futurama, shut up and take my money. Here you go.
Oh, yeah.
So there's the booth. I've got it. Packed it up, brought it to my place, set it up. And then the microphone came to play. Well, I have the Blue Yeti USB microphone, which is nice. But if you really want to go for it, don't use USB. Try to go for the analog, right? And get yourself an interface too. So the microphone came into play, same scenario. I'm looking around for different deals. Lo and behold, here's another fella on Facebook Marketplace So this could be just manifestation, or it could just be Facebook Marketplace is the hidden gem. Either way, gentlemen in Tennessee selling two Sennheiser 416s together, two for the price of one. How can you pass that up? So I did it.
Man.
Shut up, take my money. So I have two 416s for the price of one. And I'm very fortunate in this situation where I have this booth at home, this microphone at home, and I have a temporary setup in my office where I do my day job at an office building where I have an office. Yeah. So no, I have a 16 set up in there too, but I don't have a whisper room there. I have a makeshift PVC pipe 4x4 setup with dense cloth material.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. So you can too in the voiceover world. But yes, I am a crazy person and I love to act out on the microphone. The end.
Hey, some of the best people are crazy.
Yeah, that's right. It's what is it? I have a lot of these like inspirational internet sayings that you find. And one of them that I actually have, I'm looking at my whiteboard across my room and it says, you have to be odd to be number one.
I like that.
There you go.
Of course, I always attribute that crazy moniker to the song by Seal that was a big hit back in the 90s.
Kiss from a
Says,
rose.
no, the other one. Where in the chorus, it's we're never going to survive unless we get a little crazy.
Oh, yeah. He did do that one.
And then, of course, for all of you metalheads out there, if you're familiar with the band Mushroom Head, they did a cover of that song, which I think was really dang good. So you got the microphone, you got the booth, all of which manifestations of greatness. What got you started in voiceover?
Oh my goodness. How do I count the ways? So, like you've mentioned with previous guests on your show, you started in theater when you were young, and I too dabbled here and there in some dinner theater action through the church. And that gets you in front of people in that kind of mode of entertaining and, dare I say that attention seeking. And you know, get a little razzle from that. You're like, oh, this is fun. You're playing around with your friends, goofing off, whatever. So, but mine, that was kind of like a piece of the puzzle. The main vein, if you will, for me was through, the wonderful world of radio. So for me, growing up as a kid, I found myself, you know, enjoying the music that come out of the radio, but I also have, and you'll remember this from our childhood, those Sony boom boxes that we had where you had the detachable speakers.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
it was a two-way recording stereo, which I thought was so cool. So you can actually pop in a cassette tape. For those you don't know what that is, Google it. And then you press record. And so when you had the radio on, it would record what the radio was playing. So what I would do was when a favorite song of mine would come on, I'd quickly hit record. So I'd never get the beginning of the song.
No.
I'd always get like, you know, a third in and then, you know, all that. And then when the song would end, I would press stop and then I would shut the radio mode off. And then I would record myself giving like a little, you know, intro or spiel or whatever in between music. So that was kind of like the organic forming of my radio career in a way, which I went to college for, and it was great. And then college radio was the cat's meow. I definitely think I was born in the wrong decade, or dare I say century, because when radio was popping back in the 60s and 70s and, you know, payola was just slinging around, people would come in like, hey, play my record, I'll pay you this. And it's like, great, aside from the payola part. But you
Right.
could play, you had more freedom. That's the point I'm getting at. You had more freedom to play what you wanted and, you know, share with the masses what makes you tick. And so for me, that's where the love of it came from, was I would hear something and I'd want to share it with people. And it also resonates with this movie that was very inspiring to me called Pump Up the Volume from Christian Slater.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Oh, yeah, where he had his pirate radio station as a high school student. By day, he was shy, he was conservative, and then by night, he was just, his nickname was Hard On Harry. And he would just come on and play, you know, the most outlandish music at the time. And you never know if he was on for 5 minutes or if he was on for 5 hours. So I thought that was very inspiring in my days of youths, and brought that to college radio world. Got into commercial radio after graduating, found that it's too commercialized, too computerized today. You don't have a lot of that freedom to take requests from audience. and interact with them on that level. Sure, you could go out, do live remotes and be like, hey, enter this raffle to win, like a free barbecue from this place that we're talking about today, whatever. So I think it's just that whole one playing with audio. And I'll say this on your show. Shouts out to Marnie Young for being the audio sorceress. I think
Hey.
that's a badass name. And that resonates when I used to call myself the audio architect. I loved mixing and mashing audio together and sharing it and entertaining. And so coming into these days in my adulthood and not doing commercial radio anymore. So I find myself, doing my day job in the film industry, which is relevant, but, doesn't have a whole lot of leniency there. So in my free time, I have to still find a way to exercise that passion of entertaining with audio. And so voiceover, which is kind of a natural pull that I gravitated towards. And one, I also enjoyed watching cartoons growing up, and commercials to a certain degree. Some commercials were fun. And then just learning, it's like, oh, you can do that as a or as a career and a hobby perchance, but more of a career. Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump in. So
Yeah.
for me, it was, finding the time and then jumping in to this wonderful world of voiceover. And even audiobook narration at the time too, to where, we as humans, we all culminate towards stories. That's what we love. And even better when you share stories with everyone. So everything that voiceover world has to offer, I'm for it. And here I am.
That's awesome. That's one of the main reasons I do what I do, in the audiobook world, because I love reading stories and I want to share those stories with people.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Yeah, you touched on a lot of things I was going to ask you about. You just kind of jumped right in. I appreciate that.
I've had my coffee for today. So
Yeah, I am only in one cup. I need numbers 2 and 3, which we found an avenue to get some community coffee up here. So that's awesome.
Ooh,
Yeah. Currently sipping on their chicory blend right now.
you can have that one.
It's one of my top 2 favorites, actually.
You're just weird.
Of course.
For those of
But-
you who aren't familiar with chicory flavor, if you like dirt in your coffee, that's what it is. Dirt coffee.
You can call it what it is. It's more of an extra savory seasoning in the coffee.
That's the fancy way of saying dirt in coffee.
I'll let you have that one. So, in the thread of storytelling, but more importantly, sharing stories,
Mhm.
Kevin, would you happen to have a story with you that is near and dear to you that you want to share with all the listeners today?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. I do have well, I did bring that scary story as that little snippet, but I was going to get to that later. But are you talking about like a personal story, or did you want me to read off that? Just anything, really?
Yeah, it can be whatever you want. I mean, it can be a story about you. It could be a story about me, since, we did do the whole growing up family thing. It could be a story about all of us or just whatever.
Oh my goodness. I wasn't even prepared for that one.
Gotcha.
Let's see. Well, I can talk about one of my favorite books, and that could lead into what's guided me in my life if we want to go down that route.
Sure.
So one of my favorite nonfiction books is called The Last Lecture from Randy Pausch. This gentleman was a Disney Imagineer, if you will. So he was like an engineer, but for your imagination.
Okay.
Imagineer. How about that? He went to Carnegie Mellon, so he was pretty smart. And then he had a wonderful family, wife, 2 kids. But lo and behold, he was stricken with cancer. And it was going down the route that no one wants to go down with it. So with the limited amount of time he had, he decided to create these journals for both his kids and his wife on life lessons he's learned and what he wants to instill to his family while he is no longer with them when that time comes. So this book, to me, when I read it, it was kind of like an epiphany and a change of direction where it basically just focuses on everything good in life and your priorities, and so much not so on materialistic um, avenues, but more so on experiences and life lessons that you get. So for me, this book kind of was, as I said, an epiphany. I had that moment where it's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. But the more I got into this book, the more it resonated, and it kind of just like a flower blossoming, opening up, presenting a whole new perspective on life, if you
Oh,
will.
wow.
And with that, so this book, I read this, first read it back in about 2009, 2010. And the reason why I point that out was this book, I cherished so much at the time. I brought it with me and I was sharing it with others around me, my circle. And I actually ended up in a car accident, pretty horrific one, where I was very naive on checking your tires, my tires. So let that be a lesson learned for everybody out there. Check your tires. Uh, so I'm cruising up I-75 from Valdosta, Georgia. It's down south for those who don't know where it's at, back home to Atlanta. I feel this very subtle vibration and it grows and grows. And then out of nowhere, my back right tire, the tread blew off of
Oh.
this Explorer that I'm in. It's a Ford Explorer. And these are aftermarket tires. I bought this Ford Explorer from, secondhand from a dude in the military down in Valdosta. So he had these like mud tires. I thought they were so cool, but I didn't realize to go get them checked to see what condition they were in. So first glance, they looked great, but they weren't. So the back tire blew off. Fortunately, I was already in the far right lane looking to take the next exit. It was about half a mile down the road. Tire blew off and it sent me veering off to the right. I tried to correct it with the steering wheel, and that sent, as soon as it made contact with the grass, it sent the Explorer into a barrel roll, and it rolled over this ravine. And somehow I landed upright, and I had my seatbelt on. And at the time, I'm wearing glasses. I don't wear glasses anymore. I got LASIK eye surgery, which is amazing. But at the time, I was wearing glasses. Those flew off. My phone flew out the window. Whatever drink I had flew out, and everything was scattered about. And I'm sitting upright, seatbelt on, and the top of the roof kind of smashed into where it lacerated my head a little bit. So for those of you who have had a scratch, even a scratch on your head, you know that it just bleeds crazy to where you're just like, oh my goodness, how much blood do I have left? There's so
Right.
much. Um, and what's interesting about this is that again, wearing glasses, I'm nearsighted. So I do see this one car up above the hill while I'm in a state of shock. And I see this, looks like this man comes running down the hill, comes and checks on me. I don't get a good look at his face, but I could describe to you as a Caucasian male, brown hair. And he took his shirt off and pressed it against my forehead and told me to stay there as he ran back up the hill. To me, what seemed like just 5 minutes transpired. Ambulance came through, paramedics came down, used the jaws of life to pry open the door to get to me, and then they got me horizontal, put me out the back, carried me up the hill, put me in the ambulance, and off we went. And there they checked me to make sure I'm, coherent and everything. And the paramedic goes, "So how long do you think, like what time or what date and all that?" I go, "It's this day or that date, whatever." He goes, "Okay." I was like, "Man, you guys got there really quick." He goes, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, that seemed like maybe 5, 10 minutes." He goes, "Try 30 minutes.
Oh,
Took us to get to
wow.
you." I went, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, that's what shock feels like. And you're experiencing that." So flash forward to later on, had our father come pick me up. He came all the way down from Atlanta, came, got me from a hospital in the middle of nowhere, Georgia. And then he goes, "Whoever that guy was that found you, let me know. Get the police report. Let me know. I want to thank him and all that." Sure, no problem. I get the police report. There are no witnesses listed on the police report,
What?
none whatsoever. And so I even called the police department to discuss it with them. Go, "Hey, I'd really want to track down this guy who came and got me. This is what I describe him as." They go, "Sorry, we don't have any. There's nothing on record about a witness being there."
What?
So with that, they bring me the recovered items back up a little bit while I'm in the hospital. I get my phone, my glasses back, and lo and behold, my copy of the Lax lecture. And it's, scattered about with my blood on it and everything and glass shards. And so some may find this weird, but I still have that copy of the book. Blood is still dried up on some of the pages, and there's still a little tiny shards of glass in there in the book. But so every time I bring it back out and look at it, that's a reminder to me of that time in my life and how that was such a pivotal moment where one, I consume this story and take on this new perspective of life. And then two, I have this life altering moment where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, this really does put in perspective that we're not here for that long. And so you need to live it the way uh, that needs to be lived in the right way. So the last lecture, Randy Pausch, if you haven't read it, check it out. It's a nice little tearjerker, especially for those who have families. And it really does give you that refreshing perspective on life and put your priorities in place where it needs to be.
Wow. I don't know if I have anything additional to say other than wow to that uh, story.
I'll just
I'm glad you're still here.
yeah, I'm just gonna let that give a little breath there after that story in between there. But no, it really is one of the pivotal moments of my life and changed forever. And so that way, nowadays I still try to I go back to that book on occasion to give me that refresher, that reminder, because it's getting real squirrely out there in the world today.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
is.
because of just so much information that we consume and we just don't take the time to unplug and just narrow our focus and just take times for ourselves and our families and our loved ones and friends. So that book is a good reminder of, in a way, kind of grounding. You take your shoes off and you go outside and you plant yourself in the grass and you get a little grounded.
Yeah, I can't remember who I heard that from. I think he's a doctor, but I do know he goes around and does like these kind of motivational speeches
Mhm.
in a way. But he said the exact same thing. He goes, if you go outside and, barefoot, not just walking on concrete, but you have to go into the grass and just give yourself a moment to have your skin connect with the earth,
Mhm.
and it literally recharges your body.
It does.
And I
It's
thought that was the
science.
craziest. Yeah. I thought that was the craziest thing. And then he even took it a step further by saying, if you hold I think a voltmeter or whatever it was, and you hold one end and you stick the other end in the ground, you are generating currency, an electrical current with the earth, or however he phrased it. I forget.
Right. Right.
Um, Another thing you said as far as disconnecting from all the information from the internet and then trying to reconnect with family actually reminded me of a song by a metal band that I listened to called Lamb of God off of one of their albums that came up, I think, 2-3 years ago. I don't know the release date, but the particular verse goes, a depression fed by overload, false perceptions, the weight of the world, a universe in the palm of your hand, the artifice of endless strands. So, man, how powerful is that?
Wow, that's some lyrics right there.
Um, I love the lead vocalist because he tries to create content that goes outside of the stigma of what most people think metal music is.
Mhm.
He's just incredibly brilliant, Randy Blythe.
Yeah, ironic how his name too is Randy. Something about people named Randy, I guess.
Hmm. So, fellow Randys of the world, if
That's
you're
right.
listening, your destiny's calling.
Keep on chugging.
Keep on chugging. Now, behind the scenes and backstage, you mentioned you had another story you wanted to share, more specifically from a book that comes from our childhood.
Yes, yes, indeed. So in the world of voiceover, if you will, uh, it's not necessarily trying to find where I can plug into and stay in that vein. I know a lot of people have particular genres they stick to or formats, but for me, at this point in my career, very early on, I should mention that it's just a whole amalgam of anything I can be a part of and just join others to simply create and just have fun. And so there's this other podcast where they do horror stories. And so that's got me to plugged it back into those of scary stories, if you will. And so, yes, from our childhood, scary stories. to Tell in the Dark. Um, and there's like 3 different volumes of that. And I actually bought like what do you call that? The Treasury, it's called, where it's just all 3
Ah,
volumes put into one, short stories. And I remember listening to audio tape that we had as kids, and that, oh my goodness, I need to
yeah.
find that again because once again, the power of voiceover and
Yeah.
audiobook narration that scared me, and I can't even, it's hard to read some of these stories, but yes. So this short story that I am currently engaged with is appropriately called Sounds.
Ooh.
The house was near the beach. It was a big old place where nobody had lived for years. From time to time, somebody would force open a window or a door and spend the night there, but never longer. 3 fishermen caught in a storm took shelter there one night. With some dry wood they found inside, they made a fire in the fireplace. They lay down on the floor and tried to get some sleep, but none of them slept that night. First, they heard footsteps upstairs. It sounded like there were several people moving back and forth, back and forth. When one of the fishermen called, "Who's up there?" the footsteps stopped. Then they heard a woman scream. The scream turned into a groan and died away. Blood began to drip from the ceiling into the room where the fishermen huddled. A small red pool formed on the floor and soaked into the wood. A door upstairs crashed shut, and again the woman screamed. "Not me!" she cried. It sounded as if she was running, her high heels tapping wildly down the hall. "I'll get you," a man shouted, and the floor shook as he chased her. Then silence. There wasn't a sound until the man who had shouted began to laugh. Long pearls of horrible laughter filled the house. It went on and on until the fishermen thought they would go mad. When finally it stopped, the fishermen heard someone coming down the stairs, dragging something heavy that bumped on each step. They heard him drag it through the front hall and out the front door. The door opened, then it slammed shut. Again, silence. Suddenly, a flash of lightning filled the house with a green blaze of light. A ghastly face stared at the fishermen from the hallway. Then came a crash of thunder. Terrified, they ran out into the storm. And scene.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, when you mentioned the books on tape, I could still pull memories with hearing the narration plus sound effects.
Yep,
I think I remember one with a hook on the door
yep.
or something like that.
Yep, that's the one I was going to mention too. That one was
Yeah.
just pivotal and just so ingraining. Where it was this girl who attended a high school basketball game, and he said goodbye to her boyfriend, got in the car, and heard the little thud, thought nothing of it, and started just to
Yeah.
drive on. And then when she got home, lo and behold, there was a hook on the door, and that was it. That was remaining. There's a lot of stuff in between there that happened. But,
Yeah.
there was that one, and then also the another one that scared me stupid was a similar one. Girl gets in the car, drives home, and it was the one called High Beams, where the car behind her was following her and
Yeah.
kept flicking on her high beams at her, and she was freaking out because she had looked in the rear view, see the high beams, and was like, "Oh my God, this guy's following me, he's going to kill me." Lo and behold, when she pulls up to her driveway, gets out of the car, the guy gets out, and she's hysterical, and he goes, "No, no, no, there's someone in your back seat." And lo and behold, there's somebody in her back seat with the knife,
That's right.
and
He
he
would
flashes
turn
high
on.
beams every time the guy would get up.
That's right.
I
I
was like, oh.
know.
So every time I get in my truck now, I check my back seat.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, folks, there you go. Just the power of storytelling and how they stick with you throughout
Yes.
the years. Because my brother Kevin and I, we heard these, what, late 80s, early 90s at best?
Yeah. When I was like before 10 years old. So
Yeah.
thank
So,
you.
yeah. So roughly around that time frame. And they're still with us. They're still a part of our psyche, if you will.
Mm.
And so, if you're listening to this today, I challenge you, don't shy away from sharing your story whether it's, with a loved one, whether it's with friends, or even if you want to come on the podcast and share that story, that's fine too, because everybody has a story to tell. Everybody is worth listening to. And the only way we're going to hold on to what we have that's near and dear to our hearts is to share those stories. I mean, it's like I mentioned back in episode 1 of last season that we as humanity have been storytellers as far back as we can remember, as far back as history allows. And that's the only way we remember things is through telling stories, through somebody writing it down. But now here we are in the digital age, we're recording these stories. And so I challenge you to do the same. Everybody has a story to share, and I want to hear yours. And so until I talk to you next time, peace be with you.